Hello and welcome to How to Play Sushi Go, presented by GatherTogetherGames.com. This video will cover how to play the card game Sushi Go. The video will start with the general concepts and gameplay and then get into more of the details for the game. The game is played with 2 to 5 players. To play, you will need the Sushi Go card game. The number of cards dealt to each player depends on how many players are in the game. For this example, 4 players are in the game and are dealt 8 cards each. The remaining deck is placed into the middle. The object of the game is to score the most points after 3 rounds of play. Points are scored based on the cards kept each round. The Maki rolls have 1, 2, or 3 rolls on them. At the end of a round, the player with the most Maki rolls will score 6 points. The player with the second most Maki rolls will score 3 points. A player will score 5 points for each set of 2 tempura cards collected in a round. A player will score 10 points for each set of 3 sashimi cards collected in a round. Dumpling cards are scored as a group, with the point amount increasing with each dumpling card collected. The nigiri cards are scored individually for 1, 2, or 3 points based on the type of nigiri card. The wasabi card has no value by itself, but when a nigiri card is played on top of it, the nigiri card points are tripled. The pudding cards are collected throughout the game. The player with the most at the end of the game scores 6 points. The player with the least at the end of the game loses 6 points. The chopstick cards have no value, but when kept, it will allow you to collect 2 cards for a turn instead of just 1. This will be shown in more detail during the gameplay explanation. Each player will select 1 card from their hand to collect. The collected card is placed face down in front of the player. Once every player has made their selection, the face down cards are flipped up for every player to see. Each player passes their remaining hands to the left. With the newly passed hand, players again select 1 card to collect. The selected cards are placed face down in front of the player. Once every player has made their selection, the face down cards are shown. The remaining hands are again passed to the left. Players will continue to select 1 card from the passed hand on each turn. The exception being if a player has the chopsticks card in their collection. Here, player 1 has selected the chopstick card on a previous turn. On any turn, player 1 can select 2 cards to collect from the hand, and will return the chopstick card to the hand. Skipping ahead to the end of a round, the last card in the hands are passed to the left, and each player will add the last card received to their collection of cards. The round is scored based on the player's collected cards. Player 1 scores 3 points for having the second most Maki roll cards, 9 points for each of the squid nigiri cards on top of wasabi cards, and 2 points for the salmon nigiri card for a total of 23 points. All players' scores are recorded. All collected cards are discarded with the exception of the pudding cards. The players will keep those cards until the end of the game. After the cards are cleared, another hand is dealt to each player. The second round is played the same as the first. At the end of the second round, the cards are scored. Player 1 has the most Maki rolls for 6 points, the salmon nigiri on the wasabi card for 6 points, and a salmon nigiri card for 2 points for a total of 14 points. The single tempura card is not in a set and worth no points. The scores are recorded. Players with pudding cards will keep them. The other cards are discarded. A third hand is then dealt to each player. The third round is played the same as the first 2 rounds. At the end of the third round, the cards are scored. Player 1 scores 3 points for the 2 dumpling cards. No points are scored for the 2 sashimi cards, as 3 are needed for the set. Player 1's Maki roll amount is not first or second, so no points are scored for those either. The scores are recorded. Players then count their pudding cards. The player with the most pudding cards scores 6 points. The player with the least pudding cards loses 6 points. If there is a tie, the points won or lost are divided. Here, player 3 and 4 tie for most pudding cards and each score 3 points. Players 1 and 2 tie for least pudding cards and each lose 3 points. The scores are totaled and the player with the most points wins the game. If multiple players tie for the most Maki rolls in a round, the 6 points are divided between the tying players. No points are scored for the second most Maki rolls when there is a tie for first. If there is a tie for second most maki rolls, the 3 points are divided between the tying players, with the remainder being ignored. If playing with only 2 players, no player loses points for least putting cards at the end of a game. The player with the most putting cards still scores the 6 points. That wraps up How to Play Sushi Go. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and get more game tutorials by subscribing to our channel, Gather Together Games. Thanks for watching!